competitive. I did want to make a comment on, your original question. I think Wally was about the competitiveness. I believe, like any other trait, that it can be learned. I think, there are innate genetic limitations, perhaps, like there are for any other trait, but it definitely can be learned. I think it can definitely get better. And I think, like any other trait, timeline in terms of when it gets better and when it doesn't. I've seen, and again, with my own, I've got two daughters, and one of them was competitive as heck to start off with, and the other one learned it as she went along, and she ended up being more competitive. So I think, there's a developmental factor that takes time and kind of kicks in. I can't remember who it was who said about, I think it was Al who said about his son, that there are other kids who seem to be more competitive on the ice than his own son until he scores a goal. Well, when he scores a goal, that's a boost in his confidence. And I think for us as coaches, that's exactly what we need to do, is create those situations in practice where we can boost their confidence. We don't give them confidence, but I think we can create situations where we can create opportunity for them to gain in their confidence. And that there's sort of a excuse me, there's a culling out of the less competitive kids as we go along. So they get to Kim's level, and they're all pretty competitive by the time they get to that level. Otherwise, they wouldn't get to that level. And same thing at the university level. Like, all of our kids are competitive. I mean, they're just as competitive as heck, because they wouldn't really. No, there's a variance. There's a variance for sure, and some of them get better as they get here, but they wouldn't really get there unless they had sort of that minimal level of competitiveness until they get there. And I like what Tim said, making that connection for them to say that if you're competing in practice, you're not only making yourself better, but you're making your teammate better, and that's a responsibility that you have, is to make yourself better, to make your teammates better as well. When Tim started at Vermont, that was a culture that he had to build. We were a little luckier at McGill. We've had that culture for a long, long time. So, I don't really have to talk about that much. It's something that happens based on sort of the culture that we have and the way that we construct it. I would take exception to the sort of the idea of females being less competitive and all that. I just don't buy into that. I think I've seen lots of guys who aren't, can be real skilled, and they don't compete at the level that they need to compete at. So I'm more of the nature that it's an individual thing, and it's not a trait that's necessarily different between males and females, but that's sort of a cornerstone of my coaching philosophy. So anyway, I sure there'd be lots of argument about that, but anyway, that's the way I see it.
I just wanted to make one point about that is our training camp one year, I was doing AAA midget girls, and Rich Preston was helping me because they hadn't started yet. So we're at Max Ballerina, and after our practice, one of the girls, or two of the girls, came in the room, and they made that complaint that one of the players was way too aggressive out there. And and then when they left, Preston looked at me and said, "What is she talking about?" Because he couldn't believe that a player would complain that a player was too aggressive.
Wouldn't happen on my team, Tom. So it's environment. It's environment. It's not It's not based on males or females. Sorry.
Oh no, I'm just saying that happened. And Preston had never heard that statement before.
Yeah, so. No, I get it.
I had Laura come out and shoot on goaltenders last year for the AAA midget girls during camp.
How'd she do?
Oh, she was ripping pucks, and she came over to me and she goes, "Should I let off?" Because a few of them were flinching. I said, "No." I said, "I need to know whether they're going to flinch in a game." I said, "You keep shooting." So it was kind of funny that way. But this whole thing, Tim put it in the things about sports psych. It's all psychology, and it's really interesting stuff. And being in education, of course, you see it, and it goes back to the greediness of people. And one of the real interesting pieces of it is that, of course, we should probably have Cal Botterill telling us all the research behind much of it. But you look at things like birth order and how they can play into it, and age difference between their siblings and things like that, because you'll see that a lot. That if they have an older sibling, well, the oldest sibling might be the more perfectionist one, and but the second one wants to compete, wants to do everything that older one does, and so those fun things that come into play. And there was a study or article a while back, and it was actually talking about NHL legacies and about players who had played in the NHL after a father, and it went on. I wish I kept it, but it talked about whether their father had been a journeyman or a little more of a star player, and the success of the next generation. It was really interesting to see that and how that all comes into play. So I think it's going back to the conversation of having just the same as we talked about in the classroom, teaching the individual while you're coaching the individual as part of the group. And it's great hearing everybody's experiences in this. And I did put it in the chat about playing tic-tac-toe, and that was something that I was taught a long time ago, actually, to do with leadership with students. And it was, they call it human tic-tac-toe, and you set 9 chairs into a grid, and you have 2 groups, and you put in the rules that they can't talk, can't gesture, can't point, but you just have an order, and one side goes and chooses a chair to sit in, and then the other side goes, and same rules as X's and O's. If you get a 3 in a row on any way, it's a win. And basically, the person that was explaining it to us, and I've used it with teams, and I've used it with students, and it really does show whether a person looks to go for the win or not to lose. And it really shows their nature in that. And when you're doing it, you can also give them an opportunity to communicate partway through the game after they've done it a couple times, but still keep the rules of no pointing, because if you have that pointing or talking, then one person usually takes the lead on it. But it's really interesting to see the nature of people that way. So, but yeah, it's that whole psychology side of things is really interesting, but frustrating as hell too.
I was just going to say, I don't know whether I noticed last night on, I think it was on TSN, that there was a thing on the Nurse family. I don't know whether anybody got to see it, Kia Nurse, and she was talking a lot. And one of the things that I liked on that was she talked about her own level of confidence and her responsibility for developing her own level of confidence. And I thought it was real good. And, it's one of the things that sometimes I wrestle with as a coach, in that sometimes a player, like, I've always been a firm believer that you're responsible for your own confidence, and nobody can give you confidence other than yourself. I've been a firm believer in that. And I thought it was interesting for the way that she approached it. I didn't see the whole program, unfortunately. I recorded it and I will watch it all. But if you get a chance to take a look at it, I think it's good, because she had some really good observations, I thought. But I think what's important is that they take responsibility for their own confidence. What we can do as coaches is put them into an environment that will help them to develop their own confidence. Confidence is about the voices that you tell yourself and the messages that you're sending yourself. So I thought it was good. If you take a look at that, I think she had some real good points to say it in the program that was on air last night. It was a good one. Go ahead, Tom. I'm out.
We had a conversation maybe 2 weeks ago. Peter, I don't know if he's going to hear this or not, but you can't put confidence in an envelope and hand it to your players. And I think that's a point really well taken here, that the nurse girl, the confidence issue, coaches can certainly influence that confidence. And my experience is in minor hockey, Al, and you'll witness it out there as they move up to 10, 12, 14. If coaches create that power play line and double shift them, or they rotate 2 centers and double shift them around 3 sets of wingers, there's not much chance of the other players developing and getting in situations that will build their confidence. And I've witnessed it at the under 10 level, and there's great harm done. I call it criminal when you are dealing with young people, trying to transmit belief and inspire them to do better and work harder, when benches are shortened versus managed. And that's really critical. At the professional level, and even Kim, when you said you had 3 lines that rolled, but you had a 4th line. Now, that's the balance of how you do that to achieve success. I sort of equate the balancing of your bench management in terms of, I look at the teams that get into the Stanley Cup finals, usually in most years, the players get more minutes. There's more balance in the minutes of those players versus ones that got beat out in earlier rounds. But when they get down to the finals, obviously they have to use everybody because it is an endurance test. But they are getting a lot more out of what their perceived 3rd and 4th line players are. And it begins, it's connected to minor hockey, growing up and getting a chance to be put in situations. So I just wanted to make that point, and I'm really curious about it because I've coached some players in the female side that were overconfident in a good way. They just wanted to influence the outcome, and they just felt they could do it and were willing to do it. And they had to learn it's a team game, and I managed to be able to get that message across with success. So it's a real big topic. So Dom, I'm curious about your girls' team. The word confidence, how do you equate that to your girls?
Well, I mean, Peter touched on it in regards to environment, and like, to be quite honest with you, that's the only thing that I focus on now, is to ensure that they have that safe environment to be able to take those risks. And I think that enables them to find the confidence in whatever we're doing. And I think controlling that environment goes to making sure the matchups that they have, being cognizant of that. I think that's a huge thing as well. Like, I've had girls, there's an angling drill that we do where two of the players are in the center circle, and then you have a girl, you take the net out of the way, and then you have the girl coming from the corner, and they come out, and then the two girls has to stop the one. And there's one of our girls that can basically, like, she can pick her way through. And when we first started it, she would pick her way through consistently. And to the point where one of the girls was like, well, why do I even need to try? Right. And so, I noted it. I didn't draw attention to it. But, they, and then, but, obviously the goal of the drill, and if it's done right, and if they figure it out, no one should be able to get through. Well, eventually it got to that point where they were able to snuff out the one girl. And you could see her confidence grow. So now she went from not being able to think that she's not good enough to be to this girl, and now she can't wait to do the drill. So it's about, to me, it's about, being able to see that and being able to, pick up those situations to be able, and again, I literally will look and see the confidence of some of the girls. Like, one of the girls, we do a shootout at the end of it, and it's, you got to score to get out. And I hated it as a player because I would always just be like, I would freeze. I'd be like, you got to be kidding me. And like, I was just so mad at the coach for doing it. And it was like getting me out of my comfort zone because, as you're going against the goalies knows your three moves after practice number, 20 or 30. And so, so one of the girls, she's more often than not, she ends up being one of the ones, and that's at the end, and she's got a really good shot, but she ends up trying to do some, like, she doesn't even get a shot away. So, and so it's about, for me, it's about creating an environment. I'm like, hey, you got to shoot that puck. Like, let that shot go. You have a bomb for a shot. And so, it's trying to find those moments to create that environment where you're getting them to, as I think it was Peter said, that create that confidence, right? Because you can't, give it to them per se, but you can definitely control the environment to have a better chance of having it.
Yeah, I wanted to add something to that. I think, and Tim, I'm halfway through the book. You told me to read the Confidence Code. I'll get there by the end of the week. But one of the great sentiments about that, and so speaking specifically about confidence in females, is talking about it being an active process. And I think we all do a good job now as coaches of finding those moments and celebrating those moments. But I'm a true believer, it has to be a consistent process. We can't wait around and go, oh, is there going to be something, or try to fabricate it. So I'll just share one thing I do with my team that I think has really helped their confidence. So we have our ABCs at every game. So 3 points that I want to cover, they're based on our principles of play. And I put a number next to it. So we're going to get, 10, easy outs out of our zone. And we're going to get 10 clear entries into their zone and maybe 5 block shots. I'm just making up numbers. And we're going to get a check mark if we actually achieve those things. So we're not trying really hard. Let's think about it like these are objective things. If we achieve them, we get a check mark. And I put a check mark on the whiteboard. If we don't achieve it, we talk about why we didn't achieve it. Maybe we didn't get 5 block shots because the other team was never in our end. That would never happen with my team, but let's say hypothetically that happened. So we talk about why we did or didn't achieve our ABCs as a team confidence thing. And then we track those ABCs. So I might have it, say we got 3 games in a weekend, we would have the same ABCs in every game. So those same objective things we want to achieve as a team. And if we get 9 check marks, I'm going to buy them an ice cream cake. They're obsessed with ice cream cake. I can't explain it. Right? If we get 6 check marks, they get something else. If they get 0 check marks, we get nothing. So team confidence standpoint, it's not saying win the game, check mark, and again, it could be a little bit more subjective, but we try to make them as objective as possible. But then one of the mental training things I teach them is they have to do their own ABCs. And this is where you get the consistency personally from game to game, right? So I'm going to write down, make sure I stop and start on every puck, get 3 shots on net, I don't know, block 2 shots in our own zone, something. And I write down my ABCs before every game. And then after the game, this is the part we're all good at goal setting. I want to do this. I want to do this. And we suck at goal getting, right? We have to go back and go, okay, did I get it? Cool, check mark for me. If I didn't get it, why didn't I get it? Or what happened? Oh, I never got out on the penalty kill, or I got a concussion after the first shift, or whatever it is, right? And then next game, I write the same things, different goals maybe, and consistency. I'm sure it would surprise 0 people on this call that I still have my notebooks of all of this crap from forever ago from playing. But then now you're building your confidence. I set a goal for myself that I thought was reasonable based on my performance. I either got it or I didn't. If I didn't get it, why? And, do I want to keep that goal or do I want to change it up going forward? I think that's one of the greatest tools we teach our players for confidence. And when we do teach, and this goes way back to the conversation an hour ago, that's a tool for their toolbox. Most of them choose to continue to do it. Some do it before they leave their house. Some do it on their phone, in the car. Some do it right in the dressing room in these little notebooks that we give them. But if a player goes off track and she's in a slump or lost her confidence, they'll come to me and they'll say, I just can't do anything right. I'll be, have you been doing your ABCs? And every single one of them says no. So if they've lost their confidence, I say, okay, have you been doing this? Have you been setting goals for yourself? Well, no, I'm this and this. And almost instantly, when they start doing that again, their confidence starts to build. So they have to learn a little bit. We spend 3 weeks where I kind of look at the goals and they say, I want 10 shots this game. I'm like, no one gets 10 shots in a game, but maybe 3 is good, or based on your stats, 2 would be good for you. And so we spend a month kind of teaching them how to use this tool, but we do it all season as a team. But I find that to me, like, that was extremely powerful for me as a player in terms of building my confidence on the things that I knew I could deliver in a game. I couldn't make our team win, but I could definitely get, 3 easy outs in a game for my team. So that, again, I like to give you guys, I guess, some things that I use that are, applicable in our day-to-day, because I think with the girls, they need that. You can't just sit and wait for them to do something great. I think they need that consistent of something they can take ownership of. And in my experience, again, I even did this at the bantam level and it went really, really well. I was a little bit more hand-holding at the bantam level, but I would say at least half my team, maybe more at the junior level, uses that on an individual basis consistently.
Kim, I really appreciate that. Do you have any template of that particular assignment, ABCs? If you got anything, boy, I'd sure love to have it sent out to us. It really is a great idea. And again, I think I always think of these tools, and this stuff is more acceptable, more becoming a part of the young male athletes starting at 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And I think they're going to be receptive to it when the coaching evolves to that level.